Hey there, everyone. I'm meteorologist Cassie Nall, and this is your 10 weather impact recap for the week. Let's start with a look at some of the top weather stories. Hurricane Erin stayed hundreds of miles away from the U.S., but large waves still caused damage up and down the East Coast. In North Carolina, the rough surf broke through the dunes, burying portions of Highway 12 under feet of sand and allowing water to surge into homes and businesses. Now, this area is no stranger to impacts from tropical systems, and Governor Josh Stein knows that damage could have been much worse.
The state emergency response team unofficial motto is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Now, we didn't have the absolute best because as we were down in Hatteras, we saw some businesses that took it on the chin. Some homeowners experienced real damage to their property. But my goodness, North Carolina dodged a bullet with Hurricane Erin. She was just a few more miles offshore. And that made the difference in a widespread devastation and what we experience today. No reported loss of life.
Out in the western U.S., several large fires continue to burn in areas west of the Rockies, where hot and dry weather this summer has caused drought conditions to worsen. This week, that region is finally seeing some much-needed rainfall, but for some, the relief is coming a little too late. In California, wine growers are feeling the impacts from the wildfires, even in areas that haven't been burned by the flames. Thick smoke has tainted the grapes. Jody Hernandez shares how this year's fire season has affected vineyards in the Pope Valley.
The owner of this vineyard says his grapes may have been okay if exposed to smoke for just a few hours, but these grapes have been soaking in the smoke for 4 days, and while they look okay, he says they're ruined.
It's been a nightmare. It started Thursday night, I think. So it's been tough on all of us here.
Grape grower Steve Brown describes what it's been like the last 4 days. The picket fire burned much of his property, but while his ranch home and vineyard are still standing, his entire crop of grapes are a complete loss.
There's a lot of love, a lot of work. You work at it all year long, and this happens.
Brown's 20 acres of Cabernet grapes have taken in too much smoke. He says hundreds of acres of grapes in the region are now tainted.
The problem is Pope Valley here, this whole area here, it's smoked. You can't sell it. So if you don't have insurance, you got a problem.
Viticulture experts say once smoke compounds are absorbed, the taint is near impossible to remove, and it can be hard to taste at first.
Bound pretty tightly, and they're not volatile, and so you can't detect them, and then they'll gradually volatilize with time. So something that might taste okay when it's bottled can be smoky in a couple of years.
Firefighters have been able to keep the 6,800-acre fire from growing much since yesterday. Cutting down burned trees at risk of falling and trying to keep the fire from flaring up again.
We're still at a heightened sense of alert. The afternoon winds can come up. This thing could still spring up.
Maggie. People in the area are showing their gratitude. Tom Lee put up signs this morning to say thank you.
My message is thank you so much for knowing what to do and for being able to assemble all these resources and knock that thing down.
In Nevada, strong winds stirred up dust at the Burning Man Festival near Black Rock City. This video shows just how low the visibility was during the dust storm, with gusts up to 45 miles per hour, destroying campsites. And in Arizona, a massive dust storm moved through Phoenix, causing downed trees, power outages, and flight delays. Morgan Chesky has a look at the impacts.
Overnight, a massive dust storm blanketing Phoenix. The apocalyptic scene driven by wind gusts hitting 70 miles per hour.
We just got a dust storm warning and it's coming in.
The storm, also called a haboob, turning the sky nearly black. This time-lapse video showing the dust blanketing Arizona State University's football field. The ominous clouds rolling over entire neighborhoods.
Can't see anything. We're in the middle of the haboob.
And temporarily grounding all planes at Sky Harbor Airport.
This week marks 8 years since Hurricane Harvey made landfall along the middle Texas coast near Port Aransas in 2017, bringing devastating winds to parts of the state and catastrophic flooding to others, including the Houston area. In a 4-day period, many areas received more than 40 inches of rain as the system slowly meandered over eastern Texas, causing unprecedented flooding. With rainfall totals over 60 inches in Netherland, Texas, Harvey was the wettest tropical cyclone on record in the United States. The resulting floods inundated hundreds of thousands of homes, which displaced more than 30,000 people and prompted more than 17,000 rescues, most of those happening in the greater Houston area. The Texas Division of Emergency Management estimates Harvey caused around $125 billion in damage, second only to Hurricane Katrina. This week also marks 20 years since Hurricane Katrina made landfall along the northern Gulf Coast. After moving across Florida, Katrina became a Category 5 hurricane as it crossed the Gulf, weakening to a Category 3 storm before making landfall near Grand Isle, Louisiana. The widespread flooding from massive storm surge was one of the biggest impacts from Katrina. And 2 decades later, Louisiana is still trying to solve the problems that contributed to that catastrophe. Brad Hicks shows how Louisiana is creating a new line of defense.
Along the coast of Louisiana,
most of this was open water.
You can walk on what, for years, has been water.
Hurricane Katrina was a wake-up call.
In the decades before the big storm, Louisiana had lost a lot of land, about the size of Delaware. Subsidence and manipulations to the Mississippi River ate away at the coastline.
Then you have saltwater intrusion that's killed all the aquatic vegetation, killing all the oak trees.
By the time Hurricane Katrina hit, the state's natural buffer to the sea had been decimated. The storm surge funneled unchecked through a shipping channel built 50 years before.
So really, Hurricane Katrina exposed that vulnerability.
In that channel, a welded cross now honors the victims, and a nearly 2-mile-long wall protects the city. But even the arsenal of concrete and steel built since the storm cannot do the job alone.
Rebuilding that natural buffer in front of the levees is really important for helping protect the city.
These piles of mud are part of the solution. Louisiana is creating 2,700 acres of new land, the biggest project like this in state history.
We have to think big because that matches the size and scale of the challenges.
Mud dredged from the bottom forms the footprints for these new wetlands. The natural buffers will slow storm surges before they reach the levee system. But they also do something steel and concrete cannot. They create opportunity, habitat, and healing.
The shrimpers, the crabbers, the oyster fishermen, those don't exist without this estuary, one of the largest, most important estuaries in the world.
It's emotional when you're able to come out and see new land that you could literally walk out and stand on where it was once open water. It's huge.
In southern Louisiana, Brad Hicks reporting.
Back in 2005, Dallas-based AT&T played a big role in the recovery effort when Hurricane Katrina devastated the New Orleans area and surrounding locations. Now, the company is reflecting on how crisis communication has evolved in the decades since. Katie Blakey shares the lessons learned and the improvements made over the past 20 years.
This warehouse is where AT&T prepares for the next disaster. Trucks and mobile cell towers are at the ready. When flooding hit the Texas Hill Country, it was this team that responded.
What struck you about that disaster in particular?
Just the magnitude, the speed that conditions changed. I mean, that's what surprised me the most.
Kelly Morrison has been with AT&T's network disaster recovery for decades and remembers the challenges brought by Hurricane Katrina 20 years ago this week.
And it wasn't setting up so people could use their cell phones. Back then it was wired, so we'd set up phone banks on tables and people would come to us, with their address books and make their calls out to family, their insurance people. And the people that were impacted by the disaster, they were apologizing because they couldn't give us cold water or they couldn't give us a meal. So their generosity, even after they'd been hit so hard, was what really was most amazing to me.
As we all know, technology has changed drastically in the 20 years since Hurricane Katrina, and that's changed how AT&T responds to disasters.
With this vehicle, we can put 4 of these on a flatbed semi-trailer and get multiple assets into a storm-impacted area very, very quickly.
AT&T now offers FirstNet, a network just for first responders. Most recently, search and rescue teams in Kerr County used it to communicate as they searched the Guadalupe River.
That capability for those first responders to be on a dedicated network just for them makes a world of difference. It's not congested with general consumers.
Trucks built to handle rough terrain can roll into a storm zone so police and fire can have quick and reliable cell service.
So the amphibious vehicle works on land, works on water.
And after every crisis.
And we look at what we learned from that event, what processes could we improve.
So while the challenges and technology change, the mission remains clear. Connection when it matters most.
And that's critical for all of us to be able to reach out, say you're okay, reach out and get some help, and to be part of a team that goes out and establishes that service when bad things have happened. It's incredibly satisfying.
To this day, Katrina's still the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. The hurricane's massive storm surge of 16 to 30 feet in height and the failure of the levees near the city of New Orleans are attributed to more than 1,800 deaths. Thankfully, the tropics are quiet today with no development expected into the weekend. Now let's get a check of your 7-day forecast, and our stretch of fall-like weather is going to sort of come to an end as we move into our Labor Day weekend. High temperatures get back into the low to mid 80s, although that is still below average for this time of year, and we'll eventually introduce some isolated rain chances back into that forecast beginning on Sunday and into early next week. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, you can always get the latest in the forecast with the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.